You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Meatloaf Monday, and it's also the 1st of March. That's amazing to me that we're already in March of 2025. I thought it was Y2K like yesterday. But anyway, all that to say, welcome to Meatloaf Monday, and give me some sound effect for that.
I think I'll try the meatloaf sandwich.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, meatloaf.
What is it? I'm only asking in case I have to describe it later to a doctor.
Look, it's nutritious. It's delicious.
Made out of meat. Add ketchup if you want. I couldn't care less.
Nice. All right, hey, welcome to Meatloaf Monday, because it's always about food. By the way, we got very lukewarm response on the T-Bone Thursday last week.
It was a mixed response. It was very.
Mixed.
Some people liked it. Some people proposed other.
You don't want to call it lukewarm. You call it mixed.
I'd say it's pretty 50-50. 50-50.
Okay. All right. Hey, that's JP pushing buttons on the board. And how you doing, buddy?
I'm great because I came back from a trip from home with some of my mom's meatloaf to have on Meatloaf Monday today. So I'm doing great.
And it was a big basketball weekend.
Yeah, it was.
It was a big basketball weekend.
A heartbreaker buzzer beater to beat Alabama, but it happens. It's March.
It happens.
It's the first game of March, so I didn't expect
But then
that.
there was Auburn.
Mm-hmm. The regular season champs.
Auburn that, called God. There you go.
They did.
They did. All right, hey, we got a great show laid on for you today, 3:30 p.m. Congressman Gary Palmer calling in. We're going to talk to him about Ukraine and about the reconciliation bill, the House version that just passed the House with a narrow majority. But you know what? They got her done. And we'll talk to Congressman Palmer about that and get his thoughts on where things are headed. That's at 3:30 today. Stand by for that. And then I got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. Hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, we got to talk about it. You know we got to talk about it. Ukraine, Russia, that's right. Listen, there's a whole lot of hyperbole and there's a whole lot of hyperventilating by the left, and then there's a whole lot of speculation about what's next, and that's a fair question. And then I think it's also fair to look back and say, okay, where have we been with this? And so we're going to break it down right now. What's new, what's happened, and where do we go? That's Ukraine, Russia, number 1 on the Triple Dipper. I'm going to give you all the information for you to be able to make your own opinions at the same time, have those water cooler conversations about it. And then the next one is, you know the deal, sometimes we got to look around at what's happening closer to home. So that's an international/national story. But we got to spend some time cooking up a batch of home fries. So yes, I will. We'll throw on a batch of home fries, cook them up, and tell you what's happening right here in Alabama, Tennessee, and the region, because you got to know what's going on in your own backyard. And then number 3, if we can get to it with all the stuff we got today, new press, not the old press. It's kind of amazing when you see the limits to which what I would call new media has taken over by storm. The old mainstream media is reeling right now, even to the extent that they're losing their desks and their rights in the White House. It's a whole new day when you see podcasters and social media influencers and others who have real and actual ability to, report the news from within the bubble, not from outside. So we'll talk about it. New press, not the old press. That's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. And then I'm going to move on over to the Rightside Way monologue. All right, so let me do that. I'm going to move to the Rightside Way monologue right now, and I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald, he is indeed the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a few minutes. All right, let me just say this. The world has Ukraine on the brain right now. We do. And not without good reason. So I thought it would be helpful for me to look back in the Rightside archives to see what I was saying this time 3 years ago. So back in February of 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine? What was going on then? What were we thinking? How did it feel? And listen, right now, sitting here today, do me a favor. Set aside how you feel about Zelensky. Set aside how you feel about Putin, for that matter. And even set aside how you feel about Trump. Just sit back and look objectively at where we are today in a war that was said to be only capable of lasting 1 to 2 weeks. And we're at 3 years and 1 month. And I'm going to say up front, and hear me on this, it is possible to be opposed to Zelensky in his role as president of Ukraine and still want Russia to lose. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. It is possible to, and makes good sense actually, to be opposed to what we've seen in recent days with Zelensky's leadership in Ukraine and still also want Putin to be dealt with harshly. But more than anything, I'll say this. There needs to be a push for peace. The economies, the securities, the well-being of Europe is a direct vital national interest to the United States, and don't think for a second it's not. And we need them to get their collective act together. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to lay it out for you. How did we go from being opposed to Russia invading Ukraine to having the president of Ukraine then asked to leave the White House? Well, it's really a question of leadership. And let's be honest, Zelensky royally screwed this up. He has failed to grasp that 2025 is not 2022. Times change, sentiments change, economics change, and yes, presidents change. And in many ways, the world has changed a great deal in the 3 years since the war started. Having said that, though, let's think about where we've been. In 2014, the Obama-Biden administration stood idly by without saying a word when Putin's Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula. And when that happened, think about that. When that happened, Ukraine lost 2.4 million of its own citizens and one of the strongest Black Sea ports in the city of Sebastopol. But Putin wanted more. And many believe, and I agree, that if Trump had not been elected in 2016, that Putin may well have moved on the rest of Ukraine much earlier, but he didn't. He knew that Trump was not Obama or Clinton. But then he got Joe Biden, the most feckless, toothless foreign policy in the history of the United States, the Biden administration. So towards the end of Biden's first year, Putin launched into eastern Ukraine. Let's not forget a few things in the process, though. In February 2022, Russian forces launched a three-pronged attack with tens of thousands of ground forces that were preceded by hundreds of cruise missile strikes, airstrikes, attack helicopter runs. But reports surfaced immediately that the Ukrainian forces, who have always been vastly outnumbered and outgunned, fought back and have made sure that a Russian invasion on their sovereign soil was not going to go down without some Russian bloodletting shed in the process. Well, as of March 2025, this month, estimates are that nearly 500,000 casualties have been inflicted on both sides, but the overwhelming majority of those have been Russians, with nearly 300,000 dead and wounded. Some say upwards of 700,000 if we got the accurate numbers. Even still, it appears that Russian forces have been able to steadily advance bit by bit across Ukraine, taking out key command and control nodes, destroying Ukrainian military bases, razing cities, especially in the eastern Donbass region. Cyber attacks in Ukraine have been used to disrupt Ukrainian banking, communications, government offices. This is a war of numbers, though. It's a war of numbers, and Russia has the bigger numbers, and they can outlive the battlefield attrition. If it comes down to just a war of numbers, Russia wins. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who is now an envoy for the Trump administration, he said in 2022 that Putin appeared to be somewhat unhinged, and that we should know that he, Putin, has openly threatened the United States, NATO, and our allies around the world. In his words, General Kellogg believes that was a couch threat for the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Not the big nation-killing kind, but certainly tactical nukes, the kind that can destroy whole installations and units and infrastructure. There are things that could have been done, though. Things that could have been done should have been done. And I'll rehash them just for a minute to give some perspective. First and foremost, I will reiterate that despite my personal background as a warfighter, I do not want to see U.S. troops on Ukrainian soil. I do not. What has been forgotten, though, in the several years since it all started is that initially Putin went so far as to say that not only did he question the validity of Ukraine's statehood, he also questioned whether certain sections of Poland, a NATO ally, whether Poland might not be allowed to happen. NATO needs to remain intact. It needs to remain strong. That's one thing to think about. Sanctions, Biden should have done more with that. I agree with sanctions. They cannot be escalating and threatening and red lines. Biden should have unequivocally dropped the sanctions hammer when he had the chance. And remember, if you will, that when Biden heard that Putin was posturing for an invasion of Ukraine, his response when he was asked by the press was, well, it depended on whether or not it was a large invasion or a small one. What? Who says that? That's like an open invitation to the guy who just watched you screw up Afghanistan, not the leader of the free world. But something else the Biden administration refused to do, though, was to rescind Biden's executive orders that curtailed our own domestic energy production. We should have allowed the oil and gas industry to fully rekindle. Get the West away from any dependency on Russian oil or imports of any type. We cannot control our own energy destiny, and we can control our own energy destiny, and Russia should not be the ones dictating world commodity prices. They shouldn't. And Russia's war machine right now is fueled in large part by its energy productions and exports, some of which are to Western countries. What Biden did do was write checks. And here in 2025, the United States has entered into an era of big government accountability and the advent of DOGE. And we are relishing the idea of finding and cutting wasteful spending, but that public sentiment for DOGE politics, it's also built on the haphazard and mindless way that the Biden administration spent trillions of dollars wantonly. And one of those egregious line items in the Biden profit and loss statement was Ukraine. Not because we shouldn't have helped or because we had no care or concern, but because Biden had no plan. Where in the history of the world has there ever been a time when the checkbook was laid open with no understanding or expectation of accountability? What was the plan? Do you recall? Well, there was no plan. All we ever heard from the Biden camp was, we're in it for as long as it takes. Well, the United States spent hundreds of billions of dollars and we can't say where or how. I mean, to be sure, I believe that much of it's traceable. Many American companies benefited too. I know that. But the real point, though, is that the war had no end state. It had no milestones. It had no phase lines. All it had was an unsustainable and unrealistic expense line in the U.S. economy, which had America and American taxpayers paying out over 25% more than all of Europe combined. And now here we are. And no one likes Russia. And we're all getting tired of Zelensky. Not a good combination. Zelensky failed to read the room on this one. He's the elected leader of a sovereign nation, and I respect that. But for being in his position, he failed to recognize that the mood has changed dramatically in the United States. Leadership has changed. Public sentiment has changed. And therefore, his position has changed. He came to the White House last week, and we're learning now he had options, but he chose not to take them. 1 month before the blow-up in the Oval Office, Secretary Rubio had told investigative journalist Catherine Herridge that Zelensky was becoming increasingly difficult to deal with. Kept saying one thing in negotiations and then doing another when he left the room. Rumors abound right now that Zelensky may be taking advice from former Obama and Biden advisors Susan Rice and Alexander Vindman, of all people. If that's true, then he's extremely naive. Why would anyone take advice from the people who are known to be openly, diametrically opposed to Trump, from whom Zelensky is trying to negotiate things that he wants? Yeah, Zelensky actually hosed himself and his people by playing games with this issue and then trying to school President Trump and Vice President Vance in the Oval Office, of all places. It was an ill-fated move, and it remains to be seen whether the deal is just now defunct. Are we ever going to get back? I don't know. A deal, by the way, that would have meant hundreds of billions of dollars to the Ukraine economy for rebuilding and restoring the ravages of war. Zelensky, he should have looked at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for an example. Netanyahu was being constantly misled and mistreated by the Biden administration. But he also knew not to air the dirty laundry in the eyes of the world. By trying to puff up to Trump in the Oval Office, Zelensky lost everything in the eyes of the world. Netanyahu, no, he kept his professionalism intact. And he did fine. I have no sympathy for Zelensky as a leader. But I tell you what, though, I do have immense sympathy for the Ukrainian people. I used to serve on the board of a ministry to Ukraine. They have been bludgeoned and beaten in all of this. Whole sections of Ukraine are devastated. Their economy has taken major hits, but I will also say that in the face of the so-called Great Russian Bear, Ukrainian soldiers have been putting the wood to the big scary neighbor to their east. But their leadership needs to change. Their politics need to change. So where do we go from here? What's next in the storyline? Well, I'll tell you that I'm of the firm belief that the war in Ukraine is still one of the biggest stories of the decade. It's the largest force-on-force continuous conventional warfare since World War II. And the ramifications of what happens now and what happens next are immense. And we have to be keenly aware of the potential for a broadening of the conflict, a flashpoint that could suck the U.S. in. And we don't need that. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, I know I ran long, but it was one of those things where I couldn't find a way to shorten that. And I didn't even get to all my material. I'm going to do another podcast on this later in the week. It's coming out on Wednesday in great detail, probably broadening it, giving more historical perspective. But the truth of the matter is, you can't dismiss this. This has to be dealt with. And Zelensky hosed it. He had an opportunity that could have brought peace and prosperity. And now he's going back to try and gather up a coalition of the willing in Europe. We'll see how that works. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We're right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. Yeah, it is absolutely possible to think Zelensky hosed this and still want Putin to lose too. You can get mad at the Ukraine situation and still go, but Putin is also just a pile of jackassery. Those are not mutually exclusive. All right, hey, let me real quick. I'm going to run. I ran long on that monologue. That was one of my longer ones yet. It just had so much content, but I need to tell you real quick. Attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, he's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He is the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama, y'all. And listen, I know him personally. I think the world of him. And we were actually texting over the weekend. But not only is Stan the kind of guy who's going to advocate and fight for your legal needs, but listen, I know for a fact that Stan McDonald has been in the mix on the politics and the cultural issues that ruffians care about. So all you right-side ruffians, yes, he's one of your own. Attorney Stan McDonald, y'all, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He can stand up for you in local, state, and federal courts. I like to say when Stan McDonald's on your side, you will have no greater friend. And oh, by the way, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to get in touch with him. You may need an attorney one day. You might want to call him. Attorney Stan McDonald, the law firm Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And then the thing. No representation made. The quality of legal service be performed. Great quality legal service performed by the lawyers. That might be one of my better ones. Just saying.
And got in right before the buzzer.
Are we already there?
Yep, music's playing.
Have mercy. All right, well, the text messages are flowing in like crazy. Text lines, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. How do you feel about it? What's going on in Ukraine and Russia? We're going to start breaking it down in detail on the latest developments, including what was just flashed up on the screen here in the studio. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I am talking about this show. Whew, goes way down, just all the way. I lost my train of thought. I started to go way down south. I did the old thing. I got to refresh.
Yeah, it's got to become muscle memory.
It's like it usually is. I'm just so lost. Okay, hey Phil, don't read your social media, watch the TV screen, and talk at the same time. From Huntsville to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn, and oh yes, even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. How's that?
There you go.
Thank you.
Just gotta lock in.
You were telling me to remember to do something. What was that?
Yeah, so we have started a Kirk Cameron giveaway for the
right.
Gadsden event coming up this
we
Friday.
Have.
So we're going to be giving away 6 tickets total this week, and the giveaway started today. We put up a post on Phil's personal Facebook, which is just at Phil Williams, if you guys want to check that out. But then also on Rightside Media's Twitter, we're going to be doing a tweet every day of the week giving away a ticket for the event, and we'll be giving away one a day, like I said. But if you want to repost the tweet and then reply in the comments to the tweet, just reply. It says, what does family and community mean to you? We'll be giving away a ticket to a winner each day this week. So yeah, go repost the tweet and then comment to the tweet, and yeah, we'll give away a ticket.
And we're also going to do, at one point, we're going to do a bundle of Rightside merch.
Yes.
Which is a big deal for us because we just opened up the new Rightside merch store. We're selling hats, T-shirts, coffee mugs, all the stuff. So we got a bundle of Rightside merch. How's that going?
So if you have bought a ticket or go to buy a ticket, just text in a screenshot of your receipt to your ticket to the text line 833-687-4448, and you'll get a bundle of Rightside merch, and we will give you that at the door at your event this Friday.
We're gonna pick one, right?
We're gonna pick one, yes.
Yeah. Not
Yes,
every
sir,
single
yes.
person
I
that
should
sends
say
in a
that.
picture of their
We're
ticket.
gonna pick one of somebody
Man,
who
JP's gonna drain the store.
Sorry. We'll pick one winner if you text in that you bought a ticket, and we'll get you some merch.
It'll be good though with the ticket. I mean, the ticket alone is saving you $25, but then the other points or the other pieces of merch bundle that we're sending in are also going to wind up having probably a value total of $50 or more easily. So let's get that in. Yeah, check the social media. Which ones you got to post on? We have multiple platforms, so which one are we on?
Rightside Media's Twitter page, Rightside_media. Go repost and then comment on the tweet, but then also on Phil's personal Facebook at Phil Williams, and do the same.
At Sin Phil Williams. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Cool. All right. Hey, listen. Good stuff. Thanks very much, bud. And we'll prompt y'all on that again later on too. A bunch of y'all are already watching online anyway, so you're already on the right platforms to do this. But check it out. All right, text lines. Woo! David from Bucky's. He says, "Phil, am I correct?" Oh, this is a totally off topic here. What's he saying? Am I correct? The House passed budget bill included not federal income tax on tips over. I don't know, David. That's a question that goes beyond what I was prepared to answer right now. You're getting to a detail of a much larger omnibus bill, but I will check it out and see.
It does not.
I don't think it does.
But it provides framework to do it eventually. So.
Yeah, that's there you go. Dave from Capshaw says NBC News, Biden lost his temper with Zelensky in a June phone. Yeah, he did. By the way, liberals don't want to talk about that. So Zelensky has been petulant for a while. All right, this is not the first time. He apparently wore out his welcome even with Uncle Joe, who was still writing checks. The crazy thing is, though, what was Joe going to do about it? Apparently nothing. So what we're learning right now is, and I don't want to say Zelensky may have some excuses here. I will say this: he had become addicted to the idea of U.S. support being unfettered, and now he's in detox and he's trying to figure out what to do. So there is that. And I'm not saying that, listen, that was a whole different administration. So what he should have gathered was you're not dealing with the same people, so why would you expect the exact same responses? The other piece of this, though, is He had apparently learned in the past that if he snapped at the hand that fed him, he could get away with it. Isn't that amazing? So Joe Biden was the kind of guy who took the phone call and got mad when he didn't like what he heard, but still wrote more checks because that's what Joe does. But then come into the Trump administration, you think that's really going to work with a guy who has made billions by working the art of the deal and by being the strongest dog in the room? Man, what naivety on that part. Anyway, John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, just wanted JP to know that I've already set up my March Madness bracket on ESPN.com and named it JP Madness.
And I've already joined it, so there you
But
go.
it's called JP Madness.
I know.
Is that a backhanded compliment? What's happening right there?
No, I hope not. If it is, I'll just leave. No,
He said, by the way, anybody is welcome to join, including Shag Nasty, and no password or ID number is needed. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate you, man. And Shag Nasty, you just been invited. Alif Mathin says, petulant President Z got sent to bed without lunch. Stay tuned, kids. More to come on MAGA TV's hit series, Mess Around and Find Out. No doubt. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, I try to put myself in Zelensky's place and wonder what I would do, but knowing that if you cross Donald Trump, the outcome's not going to look very well for you. So he completely misread the room. There you go. And got taken to the woodshed. Also, put that $600 horsepower Mustang spooling up on Turbo Thursday and you'll have a winner.
So just update the Turbo Thursday.
So he wants to go to Turbo Thursday but change the sound effect.
Interesting.
Mike from Florence, Alabama says, I read on a reliable source that Democrats met with Zelensky and told him to reject Trump's deal. I believe they'd like to see us go to war if it given them a chance back at the White House. So there are, Mike, unsubstantiated rumors thus far that Zelensky was taking advice from former Biden and Obama advisors Susan Rice, Alexander Vindman, for crying out loud, and a couple of others whose names I just lost in my my memory banks here. But a panel of them had been advising him to stay tough and stay the course and tell him you need more and if you be tough, he'll respond to that. Well, that didn't work. Why would you take it? If this is true, by the way, I said it during my monologue, if that's true, then how naive, how immature is Zelensky as a figure on the world stage that he would literally say, hey, all you people that hate the guy that I'm trying to deal with now, tell me how to respond to him. What? What do you mean? Why would anybody do that? It's just asinine. So part of me thinks surely he wasn't so stupid as to use them as advisors. But then again, I don't know. Phil from Raleigh, North Carolina, he says, Phil, the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, he understands the situation perfectly. Here's a recent quote from him on Europe taking the lead. He said, quote, this is a paradox. Listen to how it sounds. 500 million Europeans ask 300 million Americans to protect them from 140 million Russians. He said, if you know how to count, rely on yourself. Wow. America has a role, but Europe is most at risk, and now Trump is giving them the chance to take the lead. Necessity is the mother of invention. P.S. He said, I watched JP's YouTube video on the NCAA. Dale Jackson has a mini-me. He just called you a Dale Jackson mini-me.
I heard that so many times when I worked for him, so you know what, I'm used to it.
Hairstyles do not make the man.
I've heard people see whenever we have meetings, me and Dale in the same room, and they get confused, thought Dale cloned himself or something.
Nice. I can testify, having known you all of your life, that is not the case.
No.
Yeah, just the hairstyle does not make the man.
No.
By the way, thanks for that, Phil from Raleigh, North Carolina. Calls himself Frog of War. He makes a great point. But here's a piece of history for you, and I say in the podcast that I prepared to come out later this week, I expand in much greater detail on some of the historical implications. There've been any number of times when we sat on the far side and looked at it and said, well, what happens in Europe doesn't matter to us. We're staying out of that. And then you can't. We don't need to let it get to a point of, well, we can't. Because if anybody thinks for a second that we can afford to let the Baltics or Poland or Germany or Moldavia, or for that matter, all of Ukraine, to just be Russia's, I got news. You're looking at exports and imports, and you're looking at energy costs, and you're looking at things that are impacting our economy. You're looking at trade routes. You're looking at the inability to project power into certain portions of the world. You're looking at closed off embassies where we can no longer negotiate. You're looking at a lot of things that truly impact the United States' ability to work on the world stage. What we need, though, is for Zelensky to get out of the way. Now, he's the president. I get that. He's got his own, song to dance to here. But I question whether or not he recognizes that he has no clear way forward, because the very idea that just the European nations in the background is enough I don't think that's enough. I'll be honest with you, I don't. If Russia really got some steam under it, and if Russia had the backing of China, then we're in a bad spot. And if China decides to provoke and push on Taiwan and the South China Sea, at the same time Russia ramps up its progress in Ukraine, we've got a two-pronged issue that we have to deal with. The best thing in the world, the thing that needs to happen right now, is to get China out of the picture, put Russia at the table, and Zelensky had an opportunity last week, and he blew it. That being said, yeah, there is a so-called coalition of the willing that I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. But are they really? Because what we're finding out is it's only a few of the European nations. Most of them don't want it. Most of them say they don't have it. Most of them saying they don't know what they can provide. They're not sure they want to be there. Like they're throwing a party and nobody's RSVPing. So I don't know that they're really in a position to say Europeans will take care of this by themselves. They all admit, even Keir Starmer admits, they're going to have some U.S. backing. And right now, the news is broke on the TV screens a moment ago here in the studio. The Trump administration has said they are considering right now cutting off any and all foreign aid to Ukraine. Well, what does that mean? That means Zelensky hosed it. And yeah, there we are.
But also, my response to European countries saying they're going to step up is good. Great. How is that a bad
they
thing?
should.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're
It's
all
like,
increasing their NATO spending now all of a sudden, and they're all considering talking about putting peacekeepers on the ground and all that. Great. Where have you been for 3 freaking years? I know where you've been. You've been buying Russian oil. And trying to be, we don't need you to get too mad at us because we have to buy their oil. We'll be cold in the wintertime. My God. Wake up, Europe. It is your fight. But that being said, I don't think Europe has the ability to withstand everything on its own. It's a nut to crack, and I'll tell you right now, I really do believe that most of European leaders are looking at Zelensky going, my God, man, what did you just do?
And by the way, the big ocean comment that Zelensky made of, when he said to Trump, you guys are blessed. You have a big ocean to separate you. First of all, that was very backhanded and disrespectful, I think. But if that is the case, then that means that European countries should step up even more because it's in their backyard, not ours. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how if the European countries can actually do it. But I think it's a good thing if they can do it.
Well, I got more on that, and I got plenty of text messages, and you guys are lighting me up over here on the text, so I'll come back to that in a minute. We're taking a break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades. All right, so a bunch of y'all are texting in on this Ukraine topic. I will tell you that it's drawing the attention of a lot of folks, and I'm here and abroad. Like, for instance, Ted Cruz. Piece here from Town Hall. Ted Cruz did a podcast this week, and in fact, they called it an emergency podcast. It was off their usual cycle. They felt the need to have to jump in there and do an extra one. He and his co-host, a guy named Ben Ferguson, they do a podcast called The Verdict. And so Ted Cruz jumped in there and did one on Friday night to discuss how the meeting went in the Oval Office. He said the meeting went so poorly that he doesn't think Zelensky can politically survive this. And that's one of the questions is, what's going to happen back home for Zelensky now? Well, he's making the rounds. He's being the hero. He's doing the photo ops with people from, all the leaders from the European nations, some of whom are promising things, some of whom are just getting their picture made and putting Ukrainian flags on their social media. But that doesn't win wars. In the meantime, can Zelensky survive politically? Will his own people say, we had a chance for peace? And we don't know for a fact. Listen, I suspect that there would be some of the land that Russia currently occupies that they would have to cede back to Ukraine because those mineral deals that we want are in part in some of those Donbass region occupied areas. So I think that there were some things in there that Zelensky would have wanted for his people. He's not going to get the Crimean Peninsula back. That's just gone now. It's been gone since 2014. So we're not going to see that be a part of this negotiation. What we're looking for here is as much we can get for them in the pre-2022 era. It's a mess. But yeah, Ted Cruz says he thinks without exaggeration this would go down as the most disastrous Oval Office meeting in the history of our nation. Whew, that's stiff. He said Zelensky showed up in the Oval Office, decided he was there to battle Donald Trump. Instead, decided he was there to insult Donald Trump, like he was there to attack and belittle Donald Trump, and it will go down as the most disastrous Oval Office meeting in the history of our nation. Cruz also said Zelensky had one job. His one job was to go there, try to get the president's support for peace that leaves his country in a good, strong position. That was his whole mission. All he did was anger the guy who is now saying, we may be done writing checks at all, like ever, like stop. But let's don't forget that Zelensky also did this with Joe Biden, which is amazing to me. That's like yelling at your, feeble granddaddy. It's just there's a problem here. I'll also tell you, too, the NATO Secretary General is a little worried about this. I see I got a call. I'll take that in 1 second. The NATO Secretary, I went to Drew Berquist's podcast, and Drew Berquist says NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has urged Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to mend his relationship with Donald Trump. This is the NATO Secretary General saying, come on, Zelensky, you got to fix this. His words, it's important that President Zelensky finds a way to restore his relationship with the American president and with senior American leadership. Trump has made clear that U.S. support for Ukraine would not continue indefinitely without an agreement to end the war. In fact, they're looking at ending it altogether. Listen, this is where we are. Let me go take a phone call real quick. Sparky from Harvest. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, speaking of Zelensky, I knew a fine young artillery officer many years ago, but when he was young, he was kind of a hot dog, and he was extremely rude to women and insulting, and I guess he attracted a certain type who enjoyed being insulting. I'm thinking of Zelensky with Obama and Joe Biden. And eventually this guy met a girl who was having none of it, and she turned her back on him and walked away. Guess who he married? And he's been married for 23 years now with a son in West Point. He met somebody who wasn't going to put up with his crap, and he grew to respect and love her. And I think Zelensky's got one chance, I think, to show some respect to Donald Trump, or he's really out of the pool.
I think that's right. I think either then Zelensky goes or the Ukrainian people suffer. I don't see it going either way.
Absolutely. Great show.
Thanks, man.
Have a good afternoon.
Appreciate you, buddy. See you. Perfect timing. We got about 30 seconds before we go to the break. I will say this: Europe has agreed to step up. What? Are they really? Are they really? Yeah. So they had a summit this meeting, an emergency summit of European leaders and Canada and Turkey, all got together to pledge their continued military support for Ukraine. But they also said, but they also need the support and the buy-in of the United States as being essential to make the plan work. That's them saying it. That's not me. That's not me surmising it. That's them saying it. In fact, they said this. This is Keir Starmer from Great Britain. Europe must do the heavy lifting. Yes, they must. Europe must do the heavy lifting, but it must have the strong backing of the United States. I'm telling you, they know it. I mean, that's the leaders of that's Ukraine, France, Germany, Denmark, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Spain, Canada, Finland, Sweden, Czech Republic, and Romania, and Turkey. All saying, we're there for you, man. We're there for you. But we really need the United States to be here, too. My gosh. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, wrapping this up, coming back. We'll be right with you.
Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Meatloaf Monday. And I got to tell you, we just got the nicest text from Mike from Florence. That just blessed me, Mike. And so he says, "Hey Phil, text you for the first time Friday. I've listened to the show for a while now. I just wanted to encourage you with something." Said a lot of people in radio think you have to know people in order to get a shot or a podcast, and radio just falls into your lap. But it's different with Christians. Said the platforms and open doors you get are all entrusted to you, and when you're proven trustworthy. Said, I don't know you, but I know because of the platform you have, you've been proven trustworthy. And I'm praying God will continue to give you and your platforms blessings. Anyway, thank you for that, Mike. And listen, that is nothing but affirmation. I am praying a lot over what we're doing here. And I'll just tell you guys, I do believe this is a year, my pastor has labeled this a year of new beginnings. We go to Church of the Highlands. So this is a year of new beginnings, encouraged us to think, what are we believing God for in this year? And I'll just tell you that without going too far into the weeds, I've got several things that I am looking at, one of which is I am asking God for clarity of purpose. Not that I feel like I'm in the wrong place. I don't. I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. I want to walk in it every single day. I want to walk in it with the great authority that He's placed in me to have this opportunity and to have clarity of purpose. Not just purpose, but clarity of purpose. I can see it. I can touch it. I can strategically project on it. So all that to say, Mike, your text is perfect and well received. Thank you, my friend. Randy from Huntsville says, do you think Zelensky is on BlackRock's payroll? They only benefit by keeping the war going. Man, I don't know. In fact, the text, as it opened, I thought he was going to say, is Zelensky on bipolar meds? But no, he's on BlackRock. It stopped at the B. When I opened it, I saw the rest. I was going to say, if he wasn't before, he needs to be now. Anyway, wow. And then Red from Tony says he goes to Highlands and Madison. Outstanding. I'm betting you there's a whole bunch of right side ruffians out there that all go to Highlands. Back to this topic. We're gonna close this down. And by the way, coming up bottom of the hour, we're gonna have a discussion with Congressman Gary Palmer, who's one of the more conservative members of Congress and has been around for quite a while. And in terms of doing policy, I'm sorry, he's been around quite a while, making waves in conservative fashion on policy issues. And he's now in Congress, I believe, on his coming up on 8 years, I believe. But all that to say, Congressman Gary Palmer, a friend of this show, is going to give us a straight skinny on what the voice is, what the voices are like right now in D.C. over this issue. I'm curious. What are they saying inside the Republican caucus? And then I want to also talk to him about the bill that just passed last week, the great big, omnibus Trump agenda bill out of the House, and get his thoughts on where it's all going. So a couple more things here. I've got an audio bite, audio clip number 1, JP. I'm going to call for that. This is Secretary Marco Rubio. And listen, the European leaders are all kind of freaked out because they've never seen the United States take a stand like this. And this is, by the way, this is not a squeamish, we're just trying not to be involved stand. This is we've been writing checks for 3 freaking years. Where are y'all? What have y'all been doing? And oh, by the way, we've been writing checks for 3 years and nobody has given us a true accountability of where they went. How much of the $175 or $78 billion that we spent, which was 25% more than what all of the European nations combined have spent, where is it all? Has there been any graft and corruption in the mix? Have the Ukrainian people benefited? I will tell you, I really truly believe the Ukrainian military has certainly benefited. And there are companies in the United States that have certainly benefited. Right here in Alabama, we've got a company that builds Javelin missiles in Troy, Alabama, and those Javelin missiles are taking Russians out on the battlefield. Well, they didn't send them for free. So yes, I know that some of the monies went to American companies. I'm good with that. But why do we not deserve more accountability on the front side and also on the back side of sending billions of US dollars to a foreign country in a war that we're not actually participating in, but we care about? We do care about it. Don't think we don't. And I'll say what JP and I have been saying for a week. You're allowed to think that Zelensky was a knucklehead and still not want Putin to win. That is not a diametrically opposed position. But I've got this piece right here. Ukraine and France, according to Town Hall. Ukraine and France are forging a, quote, coalition of the willing. And I said a little bit of this for the break. But on Sunday afternoon, after an emergency peacekeeping, or emergency summit of people that swear they're going to be peacekeepers, European nations are saying they're going to be preparing a coalition of the willing. UK and France say they will send troops if necessary. But Italy, Germany, and Poland, the three other biggest factors in the European Union, have all rejected the proposal. Okay, what does that tell you? Poland is right next to Ukraine. And oh, by the way, Poland gave up almost all of its F-16s. So Poland was sending all kinds of stuff. And Poland's saying, we are not going to be putting peacekeeping forces over there. We are not going to be part of your coalition of the willing. Well, so Keir Starmer went on to say, he's the Prime Minister of England. He said, I'm not criticizing anyone here, but rather than move at the pace of every single member, every single country in Europe, which would be a quite slow pace, I think we've got to get a coalition of the willing now. When he says coalition of the willing, he's not saying that like it's a great thing. He's saying it's like we can't get everybody. We're RSVPing, we're getting very few people to attend the party. Well, Marco Rubio went on to George Stephanopoulos' show the other day. And there's a lot of talk about the fact that in the United Nations, we did not openly support a position that Ukraine wanted in a bill. Why would that be? And George Stephanopoulos was trying to give the liberal business to Marco Rubio. Well, I got news. Marco Rubio may be one of the best, if not the best, communicator within the Trump administration right now. He is quick on his feet. He is fast with the words. And once he gets going, you can't get in there and try to unseat his opinions because he knows where he's going. I want you to hear, how long is this clip, by the way, this audio clip? It's 2 minutes. I may stop you in the middle of it. But let's do this. Marco Rubio, George Stephanopoulos getting schooled by the Secretary of State. Play it.
Let me tell you. All right. So do you know what the United Nations resolution was? I'll tell you if you want to hear what it was. It basically said this has been a horrible war. It's time for it to end. The job of the UN is to bring about peace in the world. I thought that's what the UN was created to do, to stop wars and to prevent them. And that's what the resolution did. Was it antagonistic towards the Russians? No. Back to the point. But it also didn't praise the Russians. All it said is, this is a bad war. It needs to end. And by the way, at the Security Council, which has not been widely reported, the first resolution on Ukraine that has passed the Security Council in 3 years, passed this week because of the leadership of President Trump, and it's a resolution that says, bad war needs to end, let's bring the two sides together. That's what the resolution is. Again, what is the United Nations for? Isn't it not a forum to promote peace in the world? And shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd.
Yes.
We are trying to end a war. You cannot end a war unless both sides come to the table, starting with the Russians. And that is the point the president has made. And we have to do whatever we can to try to bring them to the table to see if it's even possible. I'm not promising you it's possible. I'm not telling you it's 90% likely. I'm saying it's 0% likely if we don't get them to a negotiating table. And the sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction with death and destruction and all kinds of dangers surrounding it that could spiral into a broader conflict, the sooner people grow up and realize that, I think the more progress we're going to be able to make. But the president's crystal clear. He campaigned on it, and he's going to govern on it. And that is, he is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace, and he has been very clear this is a war that would have never happened had Donald Trump been in the White House, and it needs to end, and we're going to do everything we can to end it in an enduring and sustainable and fair way.
Wow. I don't think he took a breath for 2 minutes. Did he? I mean,
no. Which, by the way, Rubio's stock has gone up tremendously, at least for me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I always liked him, but, man, he's knocked it out of the park as Secretary of State.
He has. And, there have been times when you've seen secretaries of state and you can read their face and you can tell they don't even believe what they're saying. he's all in,
Mm-hmm.
and he's all in for what his boss has said he wants to do. So listen, all said and done, this is a situation that we're in right now where Europe has got to get their game together. And I love the fact that Rubio said it's time for people to grow up and realize we've got a really bad war in our hands that could spill over into other things. And the idea that they're going to keep prompting Zelensky, hey, it's okay, you don't need the United States, and then stand up in their press conference and go, we're doing a coalition of the willing. Not everybody wants to participate, so we're just going to do a coalition of the willing, but we really need the United States to participate. Talk about mixed messages. How about this? European leaders, instead of getting your picture made in a photo op with Zelensky, why don't you get him in a room, rough him up a little bit, do some wall-to-wall justice, and send him back to the White House to get things straightened out? That's what it's going to take at this point. Get things straightened out. And oh, by the way, the deal that was on the table was a win-win. The United States would certainly make something off of it. Yes. Well, we spent $178 billion. But at the same time, there were hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that were going to be set up in a reconstruction fund for Ukrainian people. And that's what Donald Trump is looking at. Stop the madness, put an end to the cycle of death, and bring it to a place where both sides are at the table. And oh, by the way, I'll just tell you as an attorney, once again, I'll say it. As an attorney, when you mediate a case in which both sides have their passions and their positions clearly staked out, when you mediate the case, nobody is 100% happy, but the fight is over. And that's what's happening here. I'm going to get a bunch of text messages when I come back and wrap this thing up and head on down to our discussion with Congressman Gary Palmer. But in the meantime, I will tell you there's one of the best articles out there for you to read that talks about a variety of things, and that's on Fox. Victor Davis Hanson gave what he called his 10 bad takeaways from the Zelensky blow-up. It's good. It's epic. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, by the way, a couple things I gotta jump in on real quick. Number one, a bunch of y'all may have noticed that Twitter is having problems today. It's not us, it's Twitter in general. Am I right in saying that? It's Twitter, big Twitter?
Yeah, we got a lot of Twitter outages according to this Twitter outage map.
It's probably Russian bots.
So this stream has crashed twice, and so I can't get it back up. So
okay,
hopefully Twitter gets this act together.
Yeah. So streaming on Twitter apparently is having trouble, and we're actually JP just looked up, and there's an outage map that shows that we're in a sector that's having trouble. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, listen, don't worry about it. You can still get us on Facebook. You can still get us on Rumble, on YouTube. You can also get us to our website, rightsidemedia.org. We're streaming in all those places. So, yeah, if you're a live stream person, and a bunch of y'all are, go check us out in those locations right now. Now, I also got to tell you, too, and I'm going to, what, you got something? What'd you have to say?
No, I was just listening. What do you have to say?
Oh, okay. Hey, I thought you had that look of like, I've got something.
No.
News just broke. Like in the last hour, we are looking at Fort Moore being renamed Fort Benning again. Thank you. Can I have some applause? That's an applause line right there. Oh, it's even a boom. Yes. Yes. Now, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Lieutenant General Hal Moore, the hero of the Idrang Valley and the We Were Soldiers and all that, who Fort Moore was named after when it went. But the way it was done is wrong. So big doings. It's about to be Fort Benning again. By the way, it's named after Corporal Benning, who won the Distinguished Service Cross in World War I as an infantry machine gunner. Ha! Love it.
So the same strategy they use for Bragg. It's
what can they say?
So they can't change it back.
What can they say? So yes, it is indeed going to be Fort Benning again, and let's quit playing around with wokeisms. A bunch of y'all texting in. Frank from Huntsville says, I feel like Zelensky disrespected Trump in the White House by not wearing a suit to the meeting, and the way he kept touching his nose, he may have went by to visit Hunter before going to the White House. Oh, God. Okay, no comment on that. I will say this, and JP, I went back and looked at it. You said something last week that it bugged you the way that Zelensky responded to the media asking him about wearing a suit, except that when I watched that video, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought the guy who asked him the question was kind of punking him, and it wasn't really a question as much as it was a try to embarrass him moment. If somebody came in from India, China, from Nepal, or from Africa, an African nation wearing their native dress, nobody would have questioned it. So I do think it's time for him to put aside the sweatshirt and maybe wear that when he's at home. But it's still what he has told his people he will do until the war is over.
But and let me just say, like, I didn't really bother me that much that he wasn't wearing a suit. I've seen him wear that outfit since the beginning of the war. But I think what bugged me was his response. And I can see where you're coming from with the question being inflammatory. But I think just the response of like his like, really, y'all have a problem, as like, this isn't your, like, this is our White House. So it's like even if the like it's. You're talking to an American citizen.
But he said more than that, though.
Well, yeah, but just the beginning of like the,
he looked at it and he went, well, like what? And he said, this is what I wear until the war is over. I tell my people. And then he looked at it. You have a problem? Like he couldn't believe that. Anyway, bottom line is, I'm mixed on the suit thing. Although that was one of my first impressions when he came and spoke to the Congress, when he came to the White House. I'm thinking, okay, I get it. But this is really not your native dress. This is a choice you've made. So I think at some point you have to look at it and go, maybe it's time on the world stage for you to stop showing up in uniform like, you're a wartime combatant commander. Because even the president of the United States, when his troops are at war, still wears a suit.
And the people saying, well, Elon doesn't wear a suit, but Elon's not a foreign leader coming over to try to get a deal done. So, like I said, the suit thing is not something I'm too up in arms about, but I just feel like his response to citizens maybe having an issue was a bit disrespectful. Like, well, this is our White House. Like, anyways.
The whole meeting was just jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Roxanne from Harvest says, Rumble's working great. Thank you, Roxanne. Appreciate you. Brad from Hartselle says, Elon needs to lose the hat and wear a suit too. Okay, there's that. I don't argue that. I think Elon ought to show a little more respect for our offices and show up in a coat and tie. Phil from Raleigh, North Carolina again says, hey, it's off topic. Okay, it's off topic. Yes. Oh, but thank you, Phil. That's not too off topic for me, man, always. And about Fort Benning being renamed. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, man. John C. from Madison says, I read on Facebook that Ukraine and Great Britain already signed a rare earth mineral contract before Trump was even inaugurated. Did you know that? I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if they actually signed that because I think that would have been known, and I don't think there would have been any opportunity for a good faith meeting had that been the case. More to come on that one. All right, listen, we got plenty going on, and we're coming right back with a phone call with Congressman Gary Palmer. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville all the way back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn. And I do mean to say there's even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, hey, listen, we're going to the phones right now. One of the members of our Republican delegation to the U.S. House is Congressman Gary Palmer, who's been on the show multiple times. Many of y'all know Congressman Palmer, prior to his tenure in Congress, is the one who founded the Alabama Policy Institute that you hear a lot about on this show, an organization that I was also proud to serve on the staff of after he had already left, but I was still proud to be there. That organization has been known for conservative policy in the state for years, and now he's making conservative policy a real thing in D.C. Congressman Gary Palmer, how you doing?
Good, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, thank you. I know you've been traveling today and just getting back up there in the district, but we've been neck deep in stuff, and I know you have too. Listen, I got to ask you, first out the gate here, the Ukraine situation and the meeting that was held last week at the Oval Office. It's still kind of a wow. It's one of the biggest stories on the national, international media circuits. What are your thoughts on where we're headed right now as a nation in the Doge era with Ukraine?
Well, Phil, I've been trying to get Ukraine to pursue an agreement with the U.S. where, similar to what the Brits did in World War II, a Lend-Lease type arrangement, because I've been very clear with Ukrainian officials that we were not going to give them any more money and that we were not going to give them any more weapons, that the American public doesn't support that. But if they were willing to purchase those weapons and back up the purchases using their critical minerals and rare earth elements as collateral, I thought that was doable. And honestly, I was very excited about Friday. I thought that we're finally going to get that deal done. And it was one of the biggest disappointments I've had since I've been in Congress to see how it played out.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know if you've been following this and heard this part of it, but apparently Zelensky was encouraged by Senator Chris Murphy and some other Democrats to try to get more out of the deal. And that's what started the whole blow up. Was he was pressing for more to get Trump to agree to other things. And so in many respects, I think the Democrats may have set him up for failure.
I would agree. And in fact, I said earlier, too, there was also, it's a rumor, and I've not heard anything official on this. If you know something, let me know. But that he may have also consulted with Susan Rice and Alexander Vindman, of all people. And I don't know if that's accurate, but if he's taking advice from the people, I said earlier, who are diametrically opposed to the one who has the authority to grant him what he's seeking, why would that make any sense? There's a naivety there. The very idea that he would go to the people that hate Trump and say, tell me how to work with Trump, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, he clearly misread the room.
Oh, yeah.
And he obviously doesn't know Trump. And that's why I think they set him up. What you got in Zelensky, and I'm not defending him, but if you just watch him, I think it's pretty evident that he's traumatized by what's happened to his country, and he is blinded by his hatred for Putin. If it were up to him, he'd kill all of them, all the Russians, because there's been so much done in his country. And the day before last Thursday, I had 15 evangelical pastors who Zelensky's been very supportive of the evangelicals over there, supporting their national prayer breakfast. They were in here with Samaritan's Purse and the Billy Graham ministry. Samaritan's Purse has been on the ground in Ukraine from the very beginning of the war. And they were all excited about this. But I think he got misled, and I won't say I can't judge people's intentions, but knowing some of the people that gave him advice to try to do what he did in the Oval Office makes me think they wanted this to blow up. And Zelensky's desperate to save his country, but he clearly What he did was clearly inappropriate, disrespectful, and he obviously does not know Trump or Vance. I mean, Vance was very authoritative in that meeting, and he just doesn't show. He didn't show the respect and gratitude that he should have shown for, the billions of dollars we've already invested in that war.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I want to move on to some things y'all are dealing with in terms of legislation, but just in closing on the Ukraine matter, in terms of the way forward, Keir Starmer and Macron and others have said they're forming a so-called coalition of the willing. And, I'm glad to see Europe stepping up because we've put in 25 to 30% more than they have so far. But they say the coalition of the willing because they've got Germany and Poland and Italy saying they don't want any part of it, which means that not everybody in Europe is behind the idea of this going forward without, U.S. backing. But even the ones who, like Keir Starmer, he said, we're going to do this, even if it means putting our own boots on the ground, but we can't do it without U.S. support. So at what point do you think Zelensky is going to be told to come back to the U.S. and make right?
Well, I hope it's soon, and I do think we can do the deal, but I don't think the deal is going to be as good as it was for Ukraine. I think, again, he clearly doesn't know Trump, the negotiator. He probably should have read the book, The Art of the Deal, before any of this started. But this next round is going to be even more favorable to the United States. But you were in the military and you understand this. Having U.S. interest on the ground over there, you don't have to have our soldiers on the ground. That increases security for Ukraine because Russia is not going to do anything that would harm.
That's right.
U.S. business interest. And I think, again, Zelensky just missed this badly.
Yeah.
But I do think we can get the deal done. And as far as what's going on right now, that's actually a positive because it's going to force Europe to realize that they may be in this by themselves and they'll have to step up even more in terms of their military spending and their investment in that. As far as I think it's premature to talk about what the peace agreement will look like, but I've asked the Graham Ministries to reach out to President Trump to ensure that the evangelical churches are protected in the regions that are occupied by the Russians, because, Phil, I can tell you that the Putin's regime is targeting evangelicals.
Yeah.
And they've killed a number of evangelical pastors.
Wow. Well, I mean, the world of persecution is still very much alive on Christianity, and
absolutely.
And I appreciate y'all taking that angle on it, and I know you personally know that is your heart. Yeah, and back to your point too on Ukraine, the deal would have been good because we would have had a U.S. business interest there. Yes, I said on my show Friday that this would have been the same as having NATO without having NATO, because Russia cannot go just usurp something that is now a U.S. vital national interest. Hey, before we lose all our time though, let me shift gears on you and talk about what's happening legislatively. I mean, you guys are staying extremely busy, and there's been a lot coming out of both the House and the Senate. And I know that y'all just passed the framework for the big, beautiful bill. Tell me where we are on the Trump agenda legislation and where you see it going.
Well, the first thing I want to assure your listeners and your readers, if you're writing, we're not taking away your Social Security. We're not taking away Medicare. We're not taking away Medicaid. I talked to someone yesterday. Actually, they're in Ohio. And I said, did you get your last Social Security check? They said, yes, we did. Well, you call me if you don't get the next one. And when you keep getting your checks and you keep getting your benefits, call me back and when you're tired of being lied to by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Because this is a massive lie.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is get our spending under control, create these efficiencies, and it starts with getting our technology into the 21st century. This is one of the main reasons we've got so much such high improper payments, is our data systems, Phil, are 30 and 40 years old in some cases. I was told that the IRS operates on the old COBOL system, which is 50 years old. But we're not taking these benefits away. What we need to do is particularly like in Medicaid, is get the people who shouldn't be on Medicaid off Medicaid so that we've got money available for the people who truly need it. the elderly, the children, the disadvantaged, the disabled. They're being pushed to the rear, particularly in these expansion states, and preference is being given to able-bodied adults who are not working. And that's got to change.
It absolutely has to change, and I think that's part of what I keep seeing these tweets that people send out saying, "Is this what we voted for?" Yes, it's what we voted for. It's exactly what we voted for. How about the rest of the entire framework? I mean, do you see this thing moving on a positive note?
Yeah, I think we finally realized that we can't trust the Congressional Budget Office or the Joint Committee on Taxation. If you go back and look at what they projected the revenue losses would be when we first passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2018, it turned out that we increased revenue by $1.8 billion. And I like to remind people, 1.8 trillion. I said billion. I meant 1.8 trillion. That happened despite going through the pandemic and economic growth being less than 2%. We still increased revenues. We're projecting about 2.8% economic growth, and that will, for each percentage you increase your economic growth, that adds $1 trillion in revenues. And looking at a number of other things that we do, that we think we can do that are really going to unleash the economy. And the president has already declared energy as essential to our national security. So that's going to be huge in unleashing our energy potential, and it's going to bring down inflation because there's an energy cost in everything that you and I come in contact with today.
Yeah.
So we're really focused on not only growing the economy, but getting the inflation under control and helping, particularly helping the lower income, middle income people handle the cost of living. This idea that we're doing tax cuts for billionaires is another absurd lie. That's what they said the last time, and all of a sudden, middle class and lower income people started realizing they had more money in their pockets. They realized what a lie that was.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I think every bit of that's huge. Where do you see the discussion going or the legislation going in regards to things like border security, defense? And I'm hearing about the tax cuts in there too, but the border security and the defense issues are also hugely on the minds of the nation. What do you think on that?
Well, I'm working on some ideas that will generate, I think, several $1 billion that can go to border security, and we're going to secure the borders. And if you've been following this, this same time last year there were, I forget how many tens of thousands that were trying to cross our border in 1 week, and last week it was like under 300 or under 400, something like that. And so I think the message has gotten out. I think people are starting to realize we're serious about this, and what we really need to focus on first and foremost are the people who are here with ill intent, the cartel members, the gang members, the human traffickers, the drug traffickers. And that's the whole point of these tariffs on Canada and Mexico. We lost over 100,000 people to fentanyl and drug overdose deaths, but over half of that is fentanyl poisoning.
Right.
And that's coming across the borders in Canada and Mexico, and they haven't done what they should have done to interdict that.
It's amazing to watch, too, when you look back on the Biden administration, how the border's secure when it wasn't, and then the idea that they can't really take those steps because that's draconian. And now look what's happened in just a little over a month. We've seen the numbers you just quoted a minute ago, and we got about 45 seconds here left, Congressman.
Well, what you just validated is what I've said 2 or 3 times here. The people are tired of the Democrats lying to them.
That's right.
The border was never secure.
Absolutely.
Now they're trying to blame the increase in the cost of eggs on Trump, and he's been in office less than 4 weeks, or a little over 4 weeks. I mean, this is just one lie after another. And I just look at some of these people that call in here and complain about this and complain about that, and I think, when will you get tired of being lied to by the Democrats?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Well, Congressman Gary Palmer, we appreciate you making time. I know it's been a travel day for you. Thanks for squeezing us in. In the meantime, we'll stay in touch. I'd love to hear more as the legislation develops too, okay?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Phil. You do a great job.
Well, thank you, Congressman. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Well, that's take me to a break, brother. I ran long just to make sure I had enough time with him, but that's Congressman Gary Palmer, who has been among the leadership in the U.S. House, and in Congress they've got the big beautiful bill right now. They're working it. They're working the issue. Senate passed their version. We'll see what comes together. But we're also hearing some good things coming out of other bills that we might talk about here in a little bit. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. I'll take some text messages and clean things up. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. I'll go to the phones real quick. Wolverine Dan. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, very well. Listen, every time I call in, it should be Cat Scratch Fever, my bumper music, because I'm from Detroit. You know that.
I know.
Now, with that said, I got something else that's going to blow your mind.
Oh, what you got?
Vladimir Zelensky, right?
All right.
Do you know what my last name is?
I do not.
And I believe I might have some pull. My last name is Zelensky.
Stop it. Is it really?
Yes, sir.
Is this your cousin?
We're at my mom's grave.
Are y'all cousins? Are you like second cousins from a third cousin twice removed?
I have no idea, but it sounds the same, but it's spelled differently, my friend.
Ah, got you. Okay.
But my last name is Zelensky. But if I did have some pull with him, I'd pull him aside and say, "Look, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Do you want peace, or do you want just us keep funding you?" I'd like to know where all the money went. That's what I want to know, because maybe this is about money and it's not about it. It very well could be, because there's people out there that are greedy like that. I don't know yet. I don't know the man. But all I know is what we should be striving for is peace. We don't need wars, period.
I agree with that. In fact, that's what Trump said flat out, was the goal here is peace, and he doesn't think that Zelensky, your cousin, is ready for peace.
Well, maybe he's not. Maybe there's an alternative motive. I don't know. Everybody's different. Obviously, he wasn't ready for this meeting because it really didn't want to be there, and it was sad, because you're for the greater cause. You're representing other people, not just yourself.
Yeah.
Innocent people that are in the crossfire. Stop the wars. We don't need wars.
Fair enough. Wolverine Dan, who we now know is related to President Zelensky. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Okay, see you. He's right, though. And listen, I understand that Zelensky may say, why should I give up territory? They invaded me. I get that. I would feel the same way. If Mexico came in and tried to take back New Mexico, I'd go, not going to happen. So I get it. What I have to look at is, this is a war of attrition. It is a war of numbers. Ukraine does not have the numbers by themselves to make this happen. They don't. They are vastly outnumbered. This is not going to be a situation where, like, the 13 colonies beat back, the big bad, British army. This is not the same thing. We've got their next door neighbors. This is there's no ocean to traverse. There's no alliances to be had. And he's going to have to wind up having outside support. And just getting a few European nations in a coalition of the willing, they admit themselves that's not enough. I got to get some more text messages when we get back before we go to the next thing, and then we'll cook up some home fries. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, listen, it's hour number 3 on a Meatloaf Monday, and JP has a whole plate full of his mom's meatloaf at the house waiting on him.
Don't get me started. I'm going to just sit here and think about that the rest of the show.
You got to finish out the last hour, brother. You got to finish out the last hour. Several text messages that I'll jump on real quick and keep those caught up. Gary from Lester, Alabama says, Colonel Williams, I listen to WVNN from dawn till dusk on most days. I have to tell you that your show, thank you. Says your show is the most informative, entertaining than any other show that I hear all day. Thank you. He said that includes Dale Jackson and Bongino. Thank you very much for that. I said, I personally think you'll be nationwide soon in the path you and the Lord choose. Keep it up. We'll keep listening. And by the way, my favorite part of the show is when you read our messages. Not mine necessarily, he says. You're involving your listeners in the conversation. That's great. Gary, listen, thank you. I can go all day on that, so thank you very much. Mike from Florence, Alabama says, the way I see it is, if you are coming in because you want something, you dress for the occasion, i.e. the job interview, seeking donations, aid, or for a financial deal, etc. Otherwise, I couldn't care less. That's not a bad point. You dress for success, right? I mean, that is a point. And I will say this: I'm not apologizing for or trying to be an apologetic for Zelensky's. I mean, I don't think it mattered as much if he had come in there and had a different attitude and said, "Where do I sign? Let's get this done," or "We're still working out a few details, but I'm very optimistic." If he had just said that, the world would have gone, "Huh, okay." But you look at it and go, you flew all the way over here to do what? I mean, by the way, JP, I don't know if you heard this. One of the things we're hearing is that this meeting in the Oval Office was at his request.
Really?
Yeah, like Trump didn't say, "Come on down." It was more along the lines of, "I want to come to the White House and meet with Trump."
Yeah, that makes it even worse. And he didn't even start the exchange himself. Him pressing J.D. Vance's was started, so it wasn't, it's
a lot of folks, too, aren't paying attention to the fact that this was an hour-long event. This was 50 minutes, 50 minutes in the Oval Office, of which 40 went pretty well.
Yeah, it went how it was supposed to go.
Yeah, and they were taking questions from the press, and things were happening. And then, of course, there was why don't you wear a suit? Don't you own a suit? But the bottom line was, yeah.
But they wouldn't be talking about his wardrobe if it went well, I'll say.
Yeah, and he tried to negotiate in front of the eyes of the world, and it didn't work. Mike from Florence, Alabama says, the way I see it is, you already said that, I read that one. Thomas from Athens says, is it possible there's a nefarious action by global industrialists to strike a rare earth mineral deal with Ukraine in conjunction with some EU countries? Anything's possible. Anything's possible, absolutely. I don't know that they can, but anything's possible. And I'll be honest with you, if they have the deal put in place by the Trump administration, negotiated by the Secretary of State for the United States of America, and then they welch on the deal to go, undercut us with somebody else, good luck ever coming back for anything at that point. Just saying. Mark from Athens, Alabama. Do we forget when European countries joined together to fight the Russians? That was called World War II. Yes, indeed. Actually, we didn't fight the Russians. What am I saying? Russians were our allies then.
That may be a satirical text. Because I've seen so many people be like...
I read that and then went, wait a minute.
I've seen so many people say, my grandfather or great-grandfather who fought in World War II would be rolling in his grave if we knew that we were siding with Russia. It's like, does he remember what World War II?
That was our ally.
Yeah.
Okay. Pastor Carl from Decatur says, the Dems for decades have been so filled with envy, jealousy, and hate they cannot allow Donald J. Trump to gain the Nobel Peace Prize. You know what? In fact, I don't know if Trump wants it. Because if you remember, Obama was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize like 7 days after he got elected, having done nothing.
Well, the party that's supposed to be against war is now pro-war because Trump is anti-war.
Yeah. James from Tony, Alabama says, so glad about Fort Benning. Went to boot camp there. It always bugged me they renamed it. I know, man. Listen, I went to, and I just posted it on Twitter a minute ago. I went to the infantry officer course, airborne school, jump master school, ranger school, pathfinder school, the battalion pre-commanders course, all there at Benning. And that place being renamed Benning is just almost like, a finding old home week here.
My grandfather was there. My aunt was
That's
born
right.
there.
That's
like,
right.
Which, by the way, I think she was not happy when it got changed, the name Fort Benning. So hopefully she's happy it's back.
Absolutely. Mark from Athens says quotations around the Russians. Okay, so I get the euphemism now, Mark. Thank you very much. He's clarifying. Mark, all is forgiven. Yellow Dog Mike checked in. We haven't heard from Yellow Dog Mike in a long time. Yellow Dog Mike and Shag Nasty are two peas in a pod. Says Trump and his MAGA crowd are a bunch of cowards. And those that try to take up for the orange meathead will carry their shame the rest of their days. And like I've said before, you're nothing but a North Korean Kremlin propagandist. Can I have a womp womp for him? Give me some kind of sound effect. Something. He needs something out of it. Oh, Mike. Yellow Dog Mike. Just never cease it. By the way, Yellow Dog, if you could please squeeze in one more left-wing euphemism, I'd appreciate it in your text next time.
I gotta think that's satirical, but then maybe it's not. Maybe he's being serious.
I don't know. Golly, I'm looking down the line at how many texts were down below that I hadn't even seen yet. Francisco says, from Huntsville, says, not sure of the validity of the article, but it was said that the reason they didn't sign the mineral deal is because they agreed to let the UK have them. Unconfirmed. Still waiting to see. But like I said, I think UK, the United Kingdom, would be putting itself in a very difficult position if it swooped in behind to undercut a deal that the United States was already working on. So, Bob from Madison said, does Zelensky win any Academy Awards last night? I don't think so. But then again, all the other left-wing propagandists did. So, Bryant from Huntsville, Alabama says, this weekend I watched about 10 clips of Ukrainian soldiers grabbing up civilian men off the street and shoving them into vans to fight in the meat grinder. How can anyone be support? I don't know. It's called the draft. It's called conscription. I don't know if they were draft dodgers or if they're just like literally shanghaiing people and throwing them out to the front lines. I don't know how that works. But if you got something proof, say it.
Well, no, either way, no, I don't have any other proof. I was going to ask if you've seen any of those videos. They're pretty crazy.
I have, but there's no context. All I see is guys grabbing guys on the street, throwing them into, for all I know, that was staged. I don't know. I mean, if we're getting confirmation on this, I want to know. Although J.D. Vance did mention it. You're grabbing conscripts off the street and throwing them in the front line meat grinder. Ken from Harvest says, Zelensky's White House visit subject of multiple Babylon Bee articles. My favorite is President Trump posts the minimum height requirement to receive foreign aid. I also saw the one that said that President Trump threatens to institute the draft for everyone who puts a Ukrainian flag on their social media.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody who is saying the pro-Ukraine will be willing to go or send their kids to go fight in the war. It's much different when you're not technically the ones in the war.
It's amazing. A few of these are things that I just rehashed. I'll skip on down real quick. By the way, Brian from Huntsville said to you, happy 3 points at the buzzer on Monday, guys.
Yeah, good one.
Alabama, Tennessee.
That was a heartbreaker.
You got no applause on that one?
Nah.
No?
Nah,
Okay.
I think I'll pass on that one.
Okay. Jim from Athens says, my dad was a yellow dog Democrat, but he said the party left him. Yep, the party left him with people like Mike. And then Jerry from Decatur says, Ukraine has a president that doesn't live in reality. What it does have is a president that's a clown. Airborne. Well, he actually was a clown actor at one point, and that was interesting. Did some drag, got some laughs, ran for president. Here he is. All right, listen, we are going to take a break right now. We're going to come right back, and we're shifting gears, y'all. Gotta do it. Gotta get off of this for a while. Let's cook up a batch of home fries. What do you say? Things that are happening right here in our backyard, like stuffing right here in good old Red State, Alabama, and Red State, Tennessee, and surrounding region. I got stuff. Home fries coming up next. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. So JP worked some of that hoodoo he do and got Twitter going again. So we are back up and streaming on Twitter. Am I correct? Oh, should I have said that out loud?
We are, but I don't know if I did anything. I just kept trying.
Listen, I'm giving you credit in front of all of God's children right now. That JP did it. He's the one that fixed Twitter.
Yeah, there we go. I'll fix Twitter for everybody.
But hey, speaking of which, let's do this. Let's rehash, because we said in the first part of the show that we are doing a giveaway this week. So a couple things. One is we are going to give away some new Rightside merch as part of this. We got T-shirts, we got hats, we got coffee mugs, stuff. We got all the merch stuff now in the merch store on our website at rightsideradio.org, rightsidemedia.org. But you and Butters helped set this up. So remind everybody, if they want to get tickets to the Kirk Cameron show and qualify for some merch giveaway, what do they do?
Y'all, we are giving away free Kirk Cameron tickets for his event in Gadsden. Just go to Rightside Media's Twitter and repost and comment on the tweet, and we'll pick a winner each day this week for that. But also on Phil's Facebook, you can do the same. But if you've bought a ticket or are going to buy a ticket, just text in a screenshot of your receipt for the ticket to the text line 833-687-4448. And we will pick one person from this week that does that to give them a Rightside bundle of a hat, T-shirt. I believe a mug is in there as well. We'll get you a bundle when you show up to the event. So, yeah, y'all go check it out. It's free tickets. I mean, who's going to turn down free tickets?
That is cool stuff.
By the way, I'm going to say, and you get a signed Kirk Cameron book and a merch item as well with the giveaway on the Twitter giveaway. So
Nice. Okay, so the show is this coming Friday.
Yes.
Is this coming Friday, March the 7th, in Gadsden at the church at Wills Creek. It's a big church in the area here, and I've been to a number of events there. I've spoken there, as a matter of fact. But it's going to be a great night. And listen, Kirk Cameron is making this tour around the Southeast, and you can't just wait for it to come to your hometown. It doesn't work that way. He has certain venues he selects, and they do them there. And this is going to be a great faith and family night. So we're promoting it, and we're going to have him in studio on Friday, and we're giving away tickets throughout the week, and I plan to be there myself, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, make plans, and they can go to our social media platforms to win.
Yes, Rightside Media's Twitter or your personal Facebook.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. Hey, listen, every once in a while, I like to always prelim the next thing. Every once in a while, you got to look around and realize what's happening on the big news. What's happening out there in D.C., what's happening on the world stage. Well, that's important. And we just spent the whole show doing all the stuff in D.C. / what's going on with Ukraine, right? But every once in a while, I got to say, and I mean with all sincerity, what happens in your own backyard can have as much or more impact on your life as anything. So I'm a big believer is that we have to do stuff in and around where we are. We have to take a look at it. We got to pull it all together and cook up a batch of what I call home fries. Oh, yeah. Cook them up, man. Just sizzling them in the pan. All right, things that are happening in our backyard. Well, I said it earlier in the show because it was fresh, but this is breaking news. We just learned that today's date, March 3rd, 2025, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that Fort Benning, all y'all in Fort Benning, who's in our listening area, by the way, on WANI 1400 AM, 98.7 FM down yonder in the Auburn, Opelika, Fort Benning market, you're back to Benning. You're going back to Benning. He is renaming it back. Fort Moore. And by the way, I am a huge fan of Lieutenant General Hal Moore. I am. I think that if they had to choose something to rename our post for, notice I call it our post for, I was good with that selection, but I was never good with the reasons for the renaming. What they're doing right now is reclaiming those things that got stuck in wokeisms, and they're putting it back to its historical names. However, once again, chess versus checkers, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says, oh no, it's not being named after a Confederate general named Benning. Gosh, why would you think that? It's being named after a Corporal Fred Benning, who served in the U.S. Army in 1917, who was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross as a member of the 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division of the American Expeditionary Forces in World War I. Yes, indeed. He is the new namesake. So Once again, Dems aren't going to know what to do with it. They didn't say boo about Fort Liberty being renamed to Fort Bragg because they couldn't argue with the name.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Argue that these veterans, these war heroes are bad? Like, it's genius.
And, and some may take issue with this and go, Lieutenant General Moore is now being discredited. No, he's not. No, he's not. There was an asterisk by that name the whole time because of the way the Dems did it. And they tried to paint the military as systemically racist. No, we weren't. In fact, try to talk to me about it. I've got family at Benning right now. And I personally, at Fort Benning, I went to the infantry course. I went to airborne school. I went to ranger school. I did the Pathfinder course. I did the Jumpmaster course. I did the battalion commander's course and a bunch of other things in between. I've jumped out there. I have waded through the swamps out there. I have trucked down the roads. I have done PT tests. I have been all over Benning. It's like finding a lost friend to me. And so having spent a big chunk of my life there, I'm of the belief that renaming it to Benning is just right. So for all of y'all in the listening area down there at WANI out of Auburn, you are in the Fort Moore / soon to be Fort Benning again locale. And I'm looking forward to seeing more. And I think the Dems are going to say, I thought we were going to save money. Now we're going to spend millions to rename it. You know what? No, we're actually fixing your mistake. That's what we're doing. We said we're getting woke out of the military. That's what we're doing. And for many of us, it never felt right saying Fort Moore. It just felt weird. You've got family from down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the family connections.
It's like Fort Benning. I mean, Fort Moore.
Yeah,
Fort Bragg. I mean, Fort Liberty. Sorry.
Yeah, the one they renamed it, but it's what veterans have had to put a hyphen in their memories now for the last several years. This is just right. So quit screwing around, Democrats. How about this? The U.S. military, we go train warriors. That's what we're about now. And we do it at a place called Fort Benning. So thank you. Thank you very much. Just saying. By the way, we've got a text from Karen from Ozark. Ozark's down there yonder where Fort Novacell right now. It used to be Fort Rucker is. But she's pointing out there's a Friends of Army Aviation shout out doing Huey rides at the airport. Okay, very cool. At the airport in Prattville, apparently. All right, cool. I've spent a lot of time in Hueys flying with the doors open and even jumped out of them multiple times. Jumping out of a Huey. Any of you paratroopers out there ever jump out of a Huey, tell me how many of you didn't push out hard enough and hit the skids. Because you'll know when you do, as all of a sudden you're facing forward, next thing you know, it catches your chute tray and you're facing straight down. But yeah, I have spent a lot of time in Hueys. All right, listen, we're taking a break right now. We're coming right back. That was an opening salvo for home fries. We got plenty of stuff on tap. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Rightside ruffians out there. You are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains, Auburn, which stretches over, by the way, to Fort Benning. And then even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, I'm in the middle of this thing I like to do periodically where I remind you of key stories that are happening in and around the places where we live right here in our listening area. I like to call it cooking up a batch of home fries. Yeah. Cook them up. Hey, a story that came out last week, all you Tennessee folks, good on you. So this comes out, I think this was, did you see that? This is one of those that got accidentally printed out on cardstock. Did you see that? Did you hear that?
Yes.
Notice the difference? I don't want to waste it and have it reprinted. So now I've got cardstock with okay, that's a whole new sound effect.
Yeah.
Anyway, 1819 News reported that the Supreme Court of the United States, actually I take it back, I pulled this from Fox News. The Supreme Court of the United States has tossed a challenge to a Tennessee law that banned drag shows with kids present. So they did. They passed a law in 2023. Makes sense, right? The law, quote, does not allow adult-oriented performances in public spaces where minors may see them. Okay. Who would fight against that? Please, tell me. Well, of course the progressive left would. So they did. And originally the case that they filed subjected the law to an injunction, put a freeze on it. But the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed that decision. And just in the last few days, Dateline here last Thursday, the Supreme Court of the United States has declined to take up the matter, which is the Supreme Court's way of saying, we don't see the issue. It's not one for us. It stands. In other words, Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti and the legislature of Tennessee got it right, and the law stays in effect. So yay on that. That's just that's good news. I've also got a bill that's floating through the Alabama legislature right now. My good friend, Representative Mac Butler, who I served with when I was there, he and I have known each other for years. I think the world of him. Mac Butler's got a bill, House Bill 244, right now in the Alabama legislature, that is literally designed to require what he calls the ending of radical indoctrination in K-12 to align with the Trump directive. So what they're saying is, whereas Donald Trump has recently said he wants the woke out of the classrooms, and he's determined to retool the way education is looked at from governance standpoint, and to get all of the gender identity and sexuality and things out of our kids' schools. Well, Mac Butler has a bill in Alabama to align our state law directly to what the Trump statements have been. And that's happening right now in your legislature. 1819 News reports as of today. That one's also on cardstock, by the way. That one's like on multiple pieces of cardstock. Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, that it is going to get a committee hearing this very week. Now, that's a long process. Got a ways to go. But yeah. How about this? I just found this interesting. Back on the paper again.
There it is.
I just found this interesting. 1819 News also reporting that Gulf Shores, Alabama, which, by the way, all y'all in the Southeast know what a gem Gulf Shores is. Like, people up north, they think they have beaches. No. I'm sorry. The white sandy Gulf beaches of North Florida and South Alabama are of epic quality by comparison.
It's one of my favorite places on earth. Gulf Shores is awesome.
Just thank you. Yes.
We would go play our high school baseball tournaments down there, and I always loved it. It was awesome.
That, by the way, is on the Gulf of America.
Yep, the Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America. I've been fishing in the Gulf of America. I've been swimming in the Gulf of America. I like laying out on the beaches at the Gulf of America. But yeah, they're getting ready they're putting a zero tolerance policy in place at the beach this year. Spring break ain't gonna have it. So Gulf Shores and Orange Beach tourism is huge. By the way, the Orange Beach mayor, Tony Kennon, super conservative guy.
Mm-hmm.
He has rocked people's world several times as a Rightside ruffian. I need to get him on the show. I had him on years ago, but I need to get him on again.
I loved his post after the Gulf of America became official.
Absolutely.
In the cold too. You could see he was kind of bundled up, but he made a photo op to go out there. It was pretty awesome.
Absolutely. But yeah, they have a beachside alcohol ban through April 28th. They're not going to put up with drunk revelers on the beach ruining it for everybody else during spring break. So there's that, and I'm glad of it. Let me grab a phone call real quick. Brian from Huntsville. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Doing well, and I was thinking about 2023, or was it 2013? No drag in front of children.
Yeah, it's 2023
law for Alabama. It's very similar to Shakespearean England, because the actors or the thespians, they would very often wear drag because normally women were not allowed to perform in the theater.
Yeah.
So the men would dress up that way, and also in addition to that, children were not allowed into the theater. They might have sneak peeks through curtains or something like that, but they weren't allowed in the theater. So
well,
no drag in front of children.
I can tell you, I may know why. As a 12-year-old or 13-year-old, I went to Stratford-on-Avon in England to the actual Shakespearean playhouse, and my parents were shocked when things happened on the stage we didn't know were going to happen. So there's that.
You'll have a blessed day.
See you, man.
Bye.
Hey, I got a case here where I got to give props to Democrats. What? Phil, did you just say? Well, I did when they act like Republicans. So House Minority Leader Anthony Daniels, who is of Huntsville, and by the way, he and I don't agree on a lot of things. But Anthony Daniels is a good dude. I like him personally. I got to know him a little bit when I was in the Senate and he was still in the House. He's still in the House now. But he's now the minority leader in the House. He's the one who came on my show. Was it a year ago? When did they pass this? 2023. He came on my show in 23, and I had callers calling in saying, are you sure he's a Democrat? Because he's the one that had the bill to eliminate state income tax on overtime earnings. And he did a really good job with it.
And yet it seems like Republicans are the ones that are against it, and it's weird.
Thank you very much. In something that boggles my mind right now, it was widely supported by both sides of the aisle. It was Daniel's bill. He championed it. He said it was about putting people back to work. It was about giving people more to put in their pockets. It was about getting government out of their lives. And I thought, what is this? This is a Democrat saying this? Well, he got it passed, and it became the law, except they sunsetted it. And I hate it when this happens. But they sunsetted a really good bill, and it runs out this year. Like, it may have been a 2-year tease. And we'll see what's going to happen. But right now, the Alabama State House has a supermajority of Republicans and a very good Democrat bill that puts money back in workers' pockets by cutting a tax. They're going to have to renew it. Otherwise, it could expire.
I find it hard to believe that they can't find some money to pass this. And this goes with, getting rid of the income tax too. I don't know if it's because the states around us have gambling, and this is not an endorsement of gambling, by the way, but I don't know if that's the reason why they can find, money to have no income tax and we can't. But I just find it hard to believe that they can't find money to at least allow no overtime tax. I don't understand.
Well, you know what it comes back to? It's the teachers union. That's what's happening. The teachers union is getting a say in this because the education budget is what is impacted. We're one of the only states in the nation that has split budgeting. And so the education budget is the one being impacted by this because the education budget receives its dollars from, in part, and check David at Bucky's right there, but in part from income tax. This is going to reduce that, and they're saying it's having a higher than usual expect. What does that mean? It's working. If $230 million out of the, how much was it? $8 billion education budget, $230 million. You know what that boils down to? Like 4%. So they lost $230.7 million out of a surplus $8 billion budget. And now they're thinking, well, I just don't know if we can renew this because, we might have just gone too far with it, and it might just not help us and we might need more money because we're government. We got to have more money, and the teachers union got to have more money because money for schools is what we really need and stuff.
But why are Republicans the ones folding to the teachers union?
All I know is Republicans better find themselves real quick because that would be heinous to let that thing go away. I had another one. Where'd it go? Hang on a second. Let me look down at my pile of stuff. This one I did find fascinating. Montgomery and Birmingham are the two big blue cities in Alabama, right? Red state, blue dots. But they're big blue dots. Now, they've both been shrinking in size, but Montgomery is our state capital. I love Montgomery. I mean, listen, there's so much history there. There's so many good things there. Maxwell Air Force Base is down there. It's a great place. The River City area is amazing. They also have a good minor league baseball team down there.
They do. The Biscuits.
The Biscuits. But their crime has been a problem. Birmingham's crime has been a problem. But Montgomery got a hold of it. Montgomery started something called the Metro Area Crime Suppression Unit, MAX. It's called MAX, the Metro Area Crime Suppression Unit. And it began working in conjunction with ALEA, our state law enforcement agency, and the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and the Montgomery Police Department. They put together a joint task force called the MAX, the Metro Area Crime Suppression Unit. And they are posting record numbers right now. Like, they're hopefully turning things around. Just since June of last year when Max came on board, they have done like 674 outstanding arrest warrants have been cleared. They've arrested 266 individuals on various charges. 51 stolen vehicles have been recovered. 195 illegal firearms have been seized. And they're doing all kinds of stuff by doing a concerted effort at actual law enforcement. I'm saying Birmingham needs to sit up and take notice because maybe they got something going on. And by the way, for all the things that I do say about getting frustrated with Governor Ivey, she did name this as one of her policy points that I think she's right to pursue. And that is that she's pursuing getting this model rolled out to others. And that's huge.
But what if Whitfin just says, nope?
He's going to have to say, I really don't want crime suppressed in my area.
Yeah.
Because what he's about to face is state legislation that tells him he will do it.
Mm-hmm.
It tells him you will detail some of your people to a joint task force. And you will make it happen. Or you're going to lose certain funding. Anyway, the bottom line is, I don't think he's going to have much choice.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to be openly opposed to the idea of policing. Well, he kind of is already, but you know what I'm saying.
And enforcing the law.
One last one for the break. I love this. So Yellowhammer News reported on something. I need to call and get the update on this, but this story is about almost 2 weeks old. But the Alabama State House is in session right now. The Alabama State House of Representatives have got a package of bills to target illegal immigration at the state level. Y'all, this is goodness. And by the way, they're doing something very similar up in Tennessee. But we've got several of our state representatives, Robbins, Fiddler, Colvin, Chip Brown, Jamie Keel, all dropped a bunch of bills. One of them would literally, regulate workers' ability to use, to be able to get jobs. And that's going to be huge because if you can turn off the employment, what are they going to do? One of them would, where is it? Here it is. We talked about this before. There's a thing called remittances. That's the amount of money sent back from the United States to foreign countries. In Mexico especially, it is huge. What'd you look up one time? Was it $63 billion annually?
That sounds about right,
$63 billion annually sent back in remittances from people who work in the United States to their homes in Mexico. Representative Jennifer Fiddler of Alabama has House Bill 297 that would impose a 4% wire transfer fee on those remittance transfers. Y'all, 4%. And by the way, a portion of that revenue would go to county sheriffs who are now having to house ICE detainees and deal with the crime from illegal aliens. So that would be massive. It would also then give a tax credit to citizens of Alabama because we're generating revenue from other sources. I mean, this is a neat bill. And I've been saying for years, I said this when I was in the Senate, why aren't we taxing this? Why aren't we trying to put a curtail on this? And now maybe they will. That would be something. All right, take me to a break. I got more home fries. How I can't even cook up all the home fries I got. The stack, y'all. Like, stuff is so much happening in our backyard. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Just plain right. I mean, like, man, making common sense like a superpower. About to go to the show, about to the phones, I mean, two quick things. One, I got to tell you, Coach Tommy Tuberville, Senator Tuberville, is tonight his bill to do the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, basically keeping transgenders out of sports. His bill is up for a vote on the floor of the Senate tonight. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. It should pass with flying colors. It ought to be bipartisan. It already passed the House. It could be the law of the land here very soon, because if they pass it tonight, it could very well go to Donald Trump for signature soon thereafter. So loving that and hoping to see good things. And then real quick, the grades are in. John from Huntsville. Phil gets an A+ for his fantastic performance, which means today's winner is JP with a perfect A+ for his magnificent performance. And because I gave him 20 extra credit points for joining the March Madness, 20 extra points. By the way, he loves your Out of Right Field podcast too.
Appreciate it. Yeah, by the way, the new one came out today, and I talk a lot about the Tuberville bill that's up for vote tonight. So y'all go check it out.
Outstanding. Be running the phones before I run out of time. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Bill, when you going to join and get your extra credit?
I don't know. Apparently, I have to do something sports-minded, I guess.
Guess so.
Where are you at right now, man?
I'm north of Nashville, Hammer Down, baby. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Got her pinned to the wall.
Nice. Well, good deal. All right. There's that old song I want to sing, Eastbound and Down, but you're not eastbound. You're northbound and down.
I'm northbound and down, and hopefully I don't break down, then we'll be all right.
Well, what's your mind, man? What do you think about all the stuff we talked about today? Ukraine or all the home fries stuff or what?
Hey, how much is Alabama running a surplus at? Do you know?
I don't know, but I do know this. We have mandatory surplus accounts. They have to roll some money into the surplus accounts every single year, no matter what.
Oh, so they can overcharge the people, but you got to tax them so that you don't run a deficit, but then you can overcharge the people and keep that, right?
Well, a little bit of that I agree with. That's setting aside money for a rainy day fund so that if we have a budget crisis, we don't wind up having to cut people's pay and proration and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. But the thing about it is, if they think that they can't, they're having this trouble, I don't want to tax overtime, shouldn't there be a DOGE department in every state? You can't tell me that Alabama doesn't have a lot of things going on, just like the the crazy academy in Birmingham. There, look how much money that thing's probably taking in.
That was in my stack of home fry stuff I didn't even get to, but yes, the Magic City Acceptance Academy. Hey man, I got about 30 seconds to go, but what would you cut if you could?
Well, I need to cut a bunch of the. I don't know, but they need to spend some more money on the roads. That's for sure. That's where the commerce.
So whatever they do, don't cut roads. Says the guy who spends a lot of time on them.
Yes, I'm all in for 65 being a 6-laner.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you that.
You'd be for raising taxes to get that done, wouldn't you?
Oh no, you can use that surplus money.
All right, man. Hey, the music's playing.
You find from everywhere else.
You be safe on the road, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You too, bud.
All right, folks. What an amazing show. Listen, hey, do not forget. There's more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.